Ethan Walker didn't come to the Colorado mountains by accident. He came for peace. 8 years earlier, he had built a small off-grid cabin deep in the forest, far removed from packed suburbs, noisy neighbors, and the chaos of city life. His home was completely self-sufficient. Solar panels powered everything he needed. He collected rainwater, maintained his own gravel access path, and deliberately avoided modern distractions and neighborhood politics whenever possible. For almost a decade, life stayed exactly the way he wanted it. Quiet, simple, and undisturbed, until one morning changed everything. Ethan stepped outside with a cup of coffee in hand when he noticed a luxury SUV pulling up near his cabin. It rolled to a stop on the dirt clearing like it belonged there. A woman stepped out wearing a bright pink blazer, carrying a clipboard and a thick stack of documents. She introduced herself as Linda Parker from Pine Ridge Estates HOA. Without much hesitation, she handed Ethan a bill. It was between $4,000 and $7,000. According to Linda, Ethan had accumulated 8 years of unpaid HOA dues, penalties, and legal fees. For a moment, Ethan genuinely thought it had to be a mistake, or some kind of joke. His cabin was miles away from the nearest HOA-managed neighborhood. He had never attended a meeting, never used their roads, never relied on their services, utilities, or infrastructure in any way. None of it made sense. But Linda stood firm. She insisted that his property fell within the HOA's official boundaries, and she warned him that if he refused to pay, the HOA would place a lien on his land immediately. Most people would have panicked at that point. Ethan didn't. Instead, he calmly asked her to explain how exactly the HOA had suddenly decided, after 8 years of silence, that his remote mountain cabin was under their control. Linda opened her folder and showed him printed boundary maps from the HOA office. According to her, the community lines clearly included his property. She spoke with complete confidence, as if the matter was already settled. But something about it didn't sit right with Ethan. After Linda finally left, he went back inside and opened an old wooden chest he kept beneath his cabin. Inside were property documents he had inherited from his uncle, original deeds, land surveys, and official county records going back decades. He spent hours going through every page carefully, and that's when he noticed something serious. The legal descriptions on his deed didn't match the HOA's boundary maps at all, not even close. The next morning, Ethan drove into town and went straight to the county records office. He requested every official land survey connected to his property. At first, the clerk assumed it was just a simple mapping confusion, but after digging deeper into archived records, she found something unexpected. Ethan's land had never been part of Pine Ridge Estates. Not once. The original survey clearly placed his cabin completely outside HOA jurisdiction. That meant the entire $4,000 to $7,000 bill was built on incorrect assumptions and faulty maps. Ethan immediately requested certified copies of all relevant documents. Then, without wasting any time, he got back in his truck and headed straight for the HOA clubhouse. The entire situation ended up doing serious damage to the HOA board's reputation. Not long after, the conflict officially moved into county court. Reporters gathered outside the courthouse expecting a drawn-out and intense legal battle. Cameras were rolling, microphones were ready, and the atmosphere suggested a major showdown was about to unfold. But it didn't last. The hearing wrapped up far sooner than anyone expected. The judge went through decades of land surveys, property records, and official deeds before reaching a clear and simple conclusion. Ethan Walker's cabin had never been part of Pine Ridge Estates HOA. Not at any point. With that ruling, the HOA's claim was completely thrown out. Just like that, the entire $4,000 to $7,000 demand was wiped away. There was no further debate. After the decision, Linda quickly avoided the reporters waiting outside the courthouse, refusing to answer questions as cameras followed her exit. Meanwhile, frustrated residents began openly challenging the HOA board's credibility and decision-making. The backlash spread quickly. Within weeks, several board members resigned under pressure. The situation inside the community grew tense, forcing new elections to be scheduled in an attempt to rebuild trust among homeowners. As for Ethan, he returned to his mountain cabin without any attention. No interviews, no public statements, No celebration. He simply went back to his routine, fixing his solar panels, chopping firewood, and living in the quiet environment he had originally built his life around. For Ethan, the entire dispute was never about revenge. It was about protecting what was legally his. One evening, he sat beside a small campfire outside his cabin, watching the sun fade behind the Colorado mountains. The forest around him had returned to complete silence. No HOA meetings, no legal threats, no ongoing conflict, just peace and freedom. Down in Pine Ridge Estates, the HOA was forced to confront a lesson they would not forget. You cannot demand payment for land you do not legally own. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from.